Does it say record up in your screen right now? Okay. All right. I want to make sure that it's actually recording this. So this should look relatively familiar. This is a picture of the whiteboard here in class. You guys all made this a couple of days ago. You did it on a piece of paper. You went in and you drew a little stick figure, guys. Ours has a little more than others, but here's a nice stick figure scene. I just got to thinking, okay, how can I animate that? How can I turn that into a GIF? And this is what I came up with. So you can follow, don't try to follow the steps now, but just kind of watch. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to crop this down. So C for the crop tool, and I'm just going to get just the black figurines, and I'm going to kind of just clean this up a little bit, rotate it. Okay. So this is setup step number one, is just crop it down to what you want. So take a picture with your phone, crop it to just the piece you want, and you're good. The next step that we're going to do here is a setup thing that'll make more sense once we get to it, but I want the blacks black and the whites white. I want it to really stand out, because otherwise it's going to be hard to separate each figure from the background. So I'm going to do a levels adjustment, but I'm going to do it different than usual. I'm going to do it a destructive way, which makes it actually happen. So a levels adjustment, if you just go to help, you can type levels, okay? And you can see that it's Command L. And if you remember from our previous conversation, levels are how much black there is and how much white. And you can see this image is saying there's not very much pure black, not very much pure white. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to smash these together. And I'm going to get rid of all the gray too. So see how when I smash that down, it takes stuff that used to be just gray. You can kind of see how it makes a mess down here on the bottom, but I'm not really worried about that area. But I want to get my blacks really black and my whites really white. And that's just going to help Photoshop with the next step. Okay. So that's setup step number one. I'm going to get rid of this timeline here for a second. Oops, I can crop a little more. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to go and I want to put each little character on his very own layer. Because those of you that finish Hulk know I create individual layers, and then once I line them up, they look cool. So here's how one of the many ways that I'm going to pick out this character. The magic wand tool, which is under W, the actual magic wand tool allows me to select a color. Whatever color I click on, it'll select all that color that's with it. So let me show you how that works. So I'm going to take that one. I'm just going to click on his head right here. Now you'll notice, though it selected him, right, put the ants all the way around him, it kind of missed some parts, right? There's some kind of stranded parts, some grays and stuff that aren't quite in there. And so what I want to do is I'm going to change the settings of this brush for a couple things. First, I'm going to just increase the tolerance. The tolerance tells it, okay, if I click on black, here's how sensitive to be. If I turn this way up, when I click, it'll really expand. So it'll get black and like slightly black and dark gray in that. So a nice big tolerance is good. The other thing that I'm going to make sure is turned on is this continuous. And what the continuous does is it says it'll only pick up black that's touching other black. See how it didn't do the black down here? Because it's not touching. If I turn that off and click, it'll click up all the black, including all the guys all throughout this whole thing. And that's not necessarily what I want, because I want each individual guy. So continuous on, click on the guy. Now it becomes a little bit repetitive. I'm going to just click Command J. So I'm on the background layer, Command J. And what that does is it makes a jump copy of the dude. See him? There's dude, all by himself. Back to the background layer, click this guy, Command J. Layer number 2 is dude number 2. Back to the background layer, W, Command J. Back to the background layer. Now watch what happens here. Something kind of interesting is going to happen here. When I click W here, notice how it picks up the stairs. Well, the problem is, dude was touching the stairs. So, because we're just doing this kind of for fun, the easiest solution, I'm going to do Command D to kill my ants. I'm just going to take a brush, B for brush. I'm going to make it white. In fact, I'm going to do I for the eyedropper. pick up the color of the board. The eyedropper, when I click it, it'll pick up that color. Now B, I'm gonna take a really small brush and I'm just gonna separate his foot, okay? And I might go through and do that on all of these guys. I'm not gonna make you guys sit through this whole thing, but I would just go separate my guys. Let's call that an easy fix. There's another way you could draw it around, but we'll make it easier. Now, when I go back to W for the magic wand, now I get just the guy and I do Command J. Okay, so step number one's pretty good. I've separated these 4 dudes onto their own thing. Now I have a little bit of a problem though, that if I bring back, if I hide all my guys, you can see the background. Well, the originals are still there. So what I need to do now is get rid of those guys. The easiest way, or one of many ways that I can do that, is since I have a white background, I'm just gonna clone the white background over them. Remember when you clone the flowers, like made the flowers bigger? So it's the same thing. I'm just gonna take the white here and I'm gonna clone it over. I don't necessarily recommend that you could take it with a brush, what I just did on that guy's foot, because this white may not be the same everywhere on the board. So if I take just a white brush and draw, it might look okay, but it's somewhat easier or better if I do a clone. So I'm gonna push S for the clone stamp. I'm going to hold Option saying, hey, Mr. Photoshop, I want this white. And when I go down and draw, it will allow me to trace. Now see that little plus symbol up there? That's what it's cloning. So it's helping me clone kind of the more unique parts of the board. Another hot tip for this is if I take the lasso tool, which is L, and I'm just going to draw along the bottom of their feet. Okay, I've protected this area. So now I can take that clone stamp tool and I can go crazy and I don't have to worry about wrecking my runway, right? Some of you don't have runways in yours. You're gonna be really happy with yourselves, but that's how I can get rid of that. Now I have my guys back and now it becomes just a GIF animation. So I'll open the timeline, create a frame animation. There's a super little shortcut that I didn't show you in the Hulk one, which is if I click this little guy, see where it says make frames from layers? It'll turn every layer because this is 25 layers, so it'd be a lot of clicking if I just didn't do this. So I'm gonna make frames from layers. It'll take every single frame, layer 1, layer 2. See how it made them here? Doop, 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 doop. Unfortunately, it made them backwards, so I'm gonna rearrange them real quick. Right, boop.
Do we have to do this, or is this one extra credit?
This is extra credit, but I wanted to show it to you because it's just a good kind of intro. So now all I have to do is turn the background layer back on these. Go to that layer, background layer, that layer, background layer, that layer, background layer. I'm going to delete this first one because I don't need it. And now I have this little animation. If I play it, it'll be really fast. So I'm going to select the first one, hold Shift, click the last one so they're all selected, and I'll just change it to like 2 seconds. And now when it plays, you have a GIF animation. Obviously, going through and doing all of it would be a lot to show you guys, but it doesn't take that long. Once you get going on it, you can animate your little drawing, which is kind of fun since that's what you were doing in the first place. All right, stop record.